Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ask FEW Anything. So, this is our online session to re-invite successful entrepreneurs and industry experts. For those of you who want to get an update about our weekly topics, feel free to visit FEW social media and website, and you'll get our topics for this week and the next week. So, for this Thursday, we'll have a session where we will know how the most affected industry of COVID prepares for business. It's all about business. So let's welcome our speaker, Sylvia. She's the property developer of Marriott Hotels in Vietnam and leads one of the largest family owned real estate and hospitality chain business in the country. Sylvia has been on a mission to expand the world's international hotel brands into Vietnam, leading Alpha Nam Group's real estate and hospitality together with her brother. Sylvia opened 2 hotels in Da Nang and 5 more in the next 5 years, and even 10 more in the development stage. With this growth comes great responsibility, and so she built also an Alpha Nam Green Foundation, where she founded to promote corporate social responsibility, and of course she's also active in empowering fellow women. And lastly, she is recognized as the youngest second generation businesswoman to watch by Forbes Vietnam and the top 10 influencer for Vietnamese tourism by the Time Out magazine in 2018 and 2019. So let's have Sylvia please introduce yourself and let us know what you further do.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to start by saying hello and welcome to everyone attending this webinar virtually with me. And thank you, FEW, for having me today. What a year 2020 has been for all of us, especially if you're in the hospitality and services sector. It does feel like we cannot catch a break, just one hit after another. Most cities around Asia and the world are still under restrictions, and movements for the first time in the modern history are extremely limited between countries. We're moving towards the end of 2020, and 2021 with vaccines might be light at the end of the tunnel, but it is very uncertain and still very varied country to country. So I'm not here to say that I have all the answers, but I hope that through open sharing, you might find some relatable and hopefully that ignites further inspiration that you could use to solve the problems that you are facing. A little bit of background about me. I'm born in 1991 in Vietnam. And when I was 14, I moved to the States for high school and college. Then I finished my master's in the UK. My working experience covers being a founding member to S Design, an architecture consulting firm. I was leasing consultant at Savills. In 2014, I founded a restaurant in Hanoi that became the only place that hosted David Beckham for dinner. Then after that, I started signing my first hotel contract in 2015. Since then, I have been pretty much surrounding myself in building hotel, getting it through pre-opening, closing, opening, closing for COVID, up and running, closing again for COVID, reopening again, while preparing for other future hotels, as Chriselle mentioned. My life purpose is to pioneer and create an environment where different sectors can work together to deliver a more sustainable lifestyle for our future. I founded Alpha Nam Green Foundation in 2016 to create a better environment impact and footprints for the cities that we are shaping. And most recently, I became a board member to the Vietnam Business Coalition of Women Empowerment to encourage more companies in Vietnam to put effort in gender equality in the workplace through systematic changes like reviewing your hiring and promoting policies to addressing harassment in the workplace. Overall, I'm passionate about being a young person in a very dynamic country like Vietnam and creating the future as I go. I hope that through today's discussion, we would get to know more about each other. And if there's anything you would like to ask anything.
That's true.
Thank you.
And of course, yeah, take advantage of getting to ask Sylvia questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to put it in the comment section, and then we'll ask it to her. Congratulations on being part of the board member of the business group, and also very exciting to have David Beckham in your business. So yes, that's a very great achievement. So proceeding with our questions, um, how are you marketing your hotels given that rarely there will be people traveling and leaving their homes at this time? So what is your messaging in terms of promoting your business at the moment?
In terms of marketing, first of all, it's important to stay consistent to your branding and positioning, whatever you have done so far. Don't suddenly change the work that you have done or the service level, the quality, because moreover, people want to come back to what they know. They are watching their spending, so they want to be certain of what they are paying for. Many hotels are going into cost cutting mode, and so do we. But I find it extremely important to continue the journey of, obsess the customer, meaning we continuously think about what more we can offer. What do they really need today? And how to do that within our expenses and their spending range. Even when the hotels are closed, we should remind our customers of us. For example, when I scroll through social media as Hanoi is getting colder, several hotels in Nha Trang, in Phu Quoc, post photos of the calm beach with the caption, "It's sunny here today." And I find that very comforting. And you should always try to be in people's mind because the moment they can travel, they will think of you.
That's a great advice. Like take this like calm moment during the COVID um to get into people's mind so that when they think of traveling they will think of
Exactly.
you then. Yeah. So how about
Yeah.
some of did you said to keep doing what you've been doing, right? Did you change anything in terms of your presence online? Did you change any like booking system or uh increased your presence online, especially that all of the businesses have shifted that way during the COVID season?
Yes, so I think that in Vietnam, we had to review where our source market comes from, right? Because in Vietnam, the majority of source market used to be Chinese, Koreans, other foreigners, and we suddenly changed from a 10% domestic market to now you have to run at 90% domestic market in your segment. And that, of course, will change the messaging. First of all, changing a lot of things from English to Vietnamese, which is a great change, I think. And also thinking about where do they read their news? Where do they get the information? Previously, it might be through international OTAs and travel channels. However, when you break down the segments that are traveling in Vietnam, we have to understand how many percent of people actually are using OTA to book, and how many percentage of people don't get their information through OTA because they're not yet comfortable with booking channels. So they get their information through bank, through membership promotions, through their emails, through and Zalo, Facebook chats, and also through different Facebook groups online. Different fan pages that they sign up for. And this is something that we review to also change because in Vietnam, prior to COVID, most hotels never had to pay attention to smaller TAs. And we call it the people that sell vouchers, or actually everyone has their own Facebook and they consider themselves their own travel agent, their own marketing tools. And they just started, like packaging the hotel package together and sell at a very low price they post the hotel photos themselves. They become their own KOL, and there are, a massive number of all these people joining the business scheme, after COVID, because people don't go through traditional TAs that can give you hundreds of rooms per day anymore. So you have to be able to work with hundreds of these smaller personal TAs instead, in order to still give you the number that you need. So I think for that, the online presence changed significantly. And most important thing about online presence is always to reinforce people, who you are, what do you sell. And I always believe that it's important to just always have the pictures of your hotel in the back of people's mind, because through subliminal messaging, if they ever have the need to go to your market, your city, they would think of you. And if anyone talks to them about, oh, I'm going to Da Nang, I'm going to Phu Quoc, they would be, oh, have you tried this hotel, that hotel? Because I saw it on Facebook the other day. So as a marketer, right, that's basically essentially the role that you want to play.
Yeah, good. And also, like you mentioned about individual agents, so I'm sure like a lot of people are retrenched, and a lot of people are looking for business opportunities they can do online individually. So yeah, that's something we
Mm.
can take advantage of. Second question is, a lot of it, a lot of like booking canceled, I imagine. So how do you handle those cancellations, and how do you replace those losses?
I think the best way to answer this is you handle it with grace. It is an it is an unhappy moment for everyone involved, for the travel agency, for the guests that don't get to travel, and my policy is you shouldn't make it more difficult for them. Um, Instead, I prefer to maintain the relationship, be open. You can always ask, is there anything else we can do to help? Because sometimes you can think of creative way to still get them to reschedule, come with a smaller group. You have to always understand what are their pain points. Can we do anything to solve it? And also because the service is not yet done, so I don't consider it as lost business. I think of it as a lead for the future opportunities.
Yeah, that's some change in perspective there, right? And I know like some bookings would have like would would implement some like high or expensive booking cancellations. So you think it's not good, or is it's not good for future customers, or do you have any advice for that?
I think that in terms of cancellation, usually people would tell you to be flexible or deal with it case by case. I think that the first thing to remember, is not about trying to be flexible or being individualized, but it's about understanding the need of that particular group or customer. If they are canceling and they would like to come back later, sure, why not move the date for them, extend the booking. If they are canceling because they're coming in from abroad and there's literally no chance that they see Vietnam opening up in the future, then by all means we shouldn't be taking money from something that we haven't provided. So I think in this, I think just use your own personal judgment and common sense to think about, what are your values as a business, and how would you like the customer to remember you? Because always remember that customer is not that single person that is dealing with you on email or OTA. Customer is that one person and 20 of their closest friends and families, and a lot of other people that they would share information with on social media. So I think always just try to use your best judgment call and put yourself in the customer's shoe, even when you're having a tough call, as to deal with the cancellation, because it's heartbreaking for everyone. Because when you deal with a cancellation, you know that this would mean that many of your colleagues may not be called back to work in the hotel that day. Or, this may mean that the month will not break even. But going back to services that is not yet performed is not lost. So you shouldn't think that they are taking it away from you. You should think that they are simply, hopefully, coming back in the future.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great advice. Go back to the values of you as a person and you as a company as well. So let's go to the third question. Are there any? Of course, there are additional expenses with all of the social distancing, sanitation protocols. On the other hand, there are less clients to derive profits from. How are you managing the cash flow? Is there any advice do you have for some businesses who do not have cash flow to keep their doors open?
I remember in January when COVID had not hit Vietnam yet, but the hotels were already starting to take a hit from the loss of Chinese customers. And right away, I had very frank talks with our management, predicting that we might be facing 3 to 6 months of lockdown. And in Q3 and Q4, if we reopen, our best case is 20% occupancy. At that point, this was something very shocking, and no one wanted to prepare for that. Everyone projected that the occupancy will only drop 30% from the budget at most. So, currently we are working on a plan to reopen the hotel. The forecast that the management had is to break even by the end of Q1. So I said, what if there is another lockdown? Do we let our cash flow just run out? And there goes another silence. The point is, as a business owner or manager, it is your job to think about the scenarios that no one else is thinking about. And you got to prepare for that. Always ask the tough questions so that you can be ready. Because there is no tricks to facing bad situations except that you got to get ready. And my advice for the businesses running out of cash flow is to be honest with yourself and your team. If it's better to close now to get the doors to open later, do that. If it's better to do the layoff now so that you can rehire them, so that you can survive later, do that. If it's okay to lose one or several battles to win the war, and at the end of the day, you can rebuild a lot. Think about whatever you need to rebuild later and protect that core assets, whether it is the location, the building, the store, the physical restaurant itself, or the key people that you have. So, you know, think about everything that right now, this is the things that you would need to reopen later, and try to really zoom in on what is it that you need because you can always rebuild.
Mhm. Yeah, that's valuable advice and like a good perspective too. Like, it's okay to lose the battle now. If we need to close, we'll close, and then let's just win the war in the long term, right? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so.
anything is better than closing off and taking your sign down, right?
Yeah, so I hope to our audience, I hope you're getting great advice. So if you have further questions, you can type it down in the comment section. So for now, let's continue with our questions from our end. What is your game plan during and post COVID? So in the past, what were you doing? And now that we're hopefully transitioning to getting back to normal, so what's your game plan then?
I think my game plan is mostly to stay alive and well. That includes protecting my health, the health of my organization, and also of the asset. This is, a great year actually to take a step back and learn more and to train yourself to be a better leader, to look into your organization, and think about what are the values that are, that are keeping everyone together, that are holding them strong, and that can move them beyond, this pandemic, right? And now is the time to also be vigilant in maintaining your property, not to cut down on engineering staff, because the building needs to not depreciate when we are not making any money. And second game plan is to be agile. Watch for the lifestyle changes, and be ready for the changes yourself as well. Now is not the time to stay home unless the government asks you to. You should be going out, talk to people, listening to the market news, international news, news from your competitive sets, and make your own calls on what's going to happen next, because no one's going to tell you that. And again, whatever you predict, whatever you think might be the worst case, you should get ready for that. There is literally no script from here on out. Vietnam for the very first time falls into the position of having no script, because back in the days, before COVID, we could always learn from Thailand, from the Philippines, from China, from what everyone else is doing, right? We are a little bit behind, but suddenly we find ourselves in a position where Vietnam has no cases for 2 months now, and we are essentially what other country is looking at. And so what's next? We literally don't know. So we have to make the judgment call based on our own market. And I was telling people, during summer, now I start reading international news again. But I told people during summer that I literally had to shut down from every external news around me. No more Europe news, no more American news, because I need to tune in to what's happening right now in Vietnam. Because the market that I have now is literally this little bubble. And if I don't understand what's happening in my own bubble, if I don't go out, see how people are spending, what are they spending on, what are their concerns, are they still traveling, and try to get to exactly what is it that they really need. It would be very difficult to even dream of reopening. So, during this time, it's important to remember that experience may have served you in your career, but in unprecedented time, sometimes you have to throw experience out the window and start again from scratch. What is starting from scratch? Asking yourself, who are your customer? What do they need? How much they are willing to pay, and so on. Business school 101. And I think that during this time, I actually learned a lot about myself and about people around me, organizational health, and how to become a better leader. And one of the takeaway from all of the game plan and all of this is that during the time when everyone and everything is changing, it's even more important to know what are your values. How do you make the call? How do you make the decisions? What is it that is important to you that you cannot compromise? And what is it that is important to your organization that you can pull that and rally people behind, and also use that as, as like the North Star to make all the difficult calls for business that every layer of management will have to do.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great advice. Also, that now was the time to learn, and also you don't even have to go out. We have resources like FEW, of course, learning from Sylvia or learning from different business people every week. So I hope that we can take advantage of like this kind of events to learn from people. And with what you said, also like throwing experience um at the table in a time like this, of course, we all need to open our minds to different new ideas and innovations. So that's our takeaway from what you said. So we have another question. Do you have do's and don'ts for the distressed hotels at the moment?
So, in terms of do, I would say one is plan for the worst case, as I mentioned before, but speak for the best case. It is important to make sure that people have a vision in mind, always what success looks like. Second is Focus on the long term. If you need to make extreme short term decisions right now to protect the long term, it's okay to do that. Give yourself permission to think about the long term. The third one is ask a lot of questions to yourself and your team so that you can make the right decisions. This is not the moment to try everything without a clear strategy because the stakes is high and the cash flow is tight. So you really need to zoom in and try the thing that you really have thought through and prepare the cash flow based on the real market, not the market that you think you're going to have. In terms of don't, um, usually I have a lot of don'ts, but today I have only one, which is don't face the team looking like there is no solutions. If you are sad, stay home and read a book, whether it is self leadership, law of attraction. Talk to your friends. Go on YouTube and listening to a motivational video, whatever it is that gets your mood up. But do not enter the meeting room looking distressed because there is no solution that can be found from that mindset. And I promise you, the right ideas will come to you if you just keep your mind open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great advice as leaders as well. In times like this, our employees are seeking strength from you as a leader. They don't know what to do, and really, as a leader, you also don't know what to do in this situation, but try to stay calm and maintain the composure. Yeah, so we have one question from our audience at Lan Nguyen. I think it's a personal question this time. With the wisdom of Sylvia today, what will you advise if you can meet the young Sylvia when she's 22 years old?
When I was 22, I was already traveling a lot and living on my own for almost 10 years at this point. But if I were to meet Sylvia at 22 again, I'm gonna tell her to travel even more. I think I'm going to tell her to not rush back, home or try to achieve so much, and just take the time to also, if you have a goal to live somewhere else in the world, like for me, my dream was always to live, some months in Paris, for example. Try to do all the things that you think later on when you settle down and work full time. It's harder to make a commitment to that. I think I would continue to travel more.
Mm, yeah, so especially these days that we can travel the moment we can
Yeah.
travel already. Yeah. We should and we will. So, yeah, that's all of our questions for today. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for joining us. And we hope to see you again soon.
Thank
And we
you.
hope to see you in Vietnam and see what you're doing. So, thank
Thank
you,
you so much,
everyone, for.
everyone.
Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you again next week on another session, which will be helpful for all of you entrepreneurs out there. The session will be about how to raise money for your startup. So thank you everyone, and check out the link in the comment section and the description below for more FEW resources.